Hi, this is Ed Gregory for photosincolor.com, and today I'm going to be doing this amazing edit on hot air balloons in Lightroom. Theme tune! Do-do-do-do-do-do. This is me as a hot air balloon. Not a very good hot air balloon impression. So this photograph today was sent in to me by Mohammed Abdullahman, I think is your name, and it's of these hot air balloons over some desert thing, and it's amazing. His Instagram is JMA Photos, spelled F-O-T-O-S. Go check him out. A great photograph today. Now I'm going to be really pushing this image in Lightroom to see how far we can go. So if I go too far today, I am sorry. But let's jump into Lightroom and have a look. Oh, if you want to submit your photos, just head over to the Photos in Color Facebook page and submit a photograph over there. Anyway, jump into Lightroom. Okay, so here we are. We're going to be looking at this amazing photograph here. It is a raw photograph. It's a .nef, which is a Nikon, a Nikon raw file. So we can see it was taken on the Nikon D5100, 35mm at f1.8. So nice shallow depth of field, which is a choice. I wouldn't necessarily have gone that shallow, but I'm guessing it's because it was dark, so we wanted to not boost his ISO too high, and he was only at ISO 400, so that's great. So let's jump into the develop module and see what I would do here. Now the challenge is this. The sky is really bright, and we've lost lots of the color in it, and therefore it's very desaturated, and all of these balloons that are very brightly colored in real life kind of look a little bit dull. So we're going to have to do quite a lot on this image today to bring those colors back. So this is how I would go ahead and do it. So let's have a look. If I pull the contrast back, that allows me to see my colors and see what's going on in the image. So I would actually bring it back a little tiny bit here. My highlights I would pull back. My shadows I would lift because I'd want to try and get as much of this color back as possible. But what happens is now it just goes into this pasty image. So I'm going to boost my clarity. Now you know I don't like to do much of the clarity tool as a general thing, but I will use it in the brush tool. And I'm going to boost my vibrance. Okay, so let's look at the before and the after. It's a decent amount of change there, but it's not really where we want to get it to. So the next thing that I'm going to do, and the first thing is I want to pull back all of these colors inside my balloons. But I'm going to have to do that locally. Now, to do that, I'd come into the brush tool. And what I would want to do is basically paint onto each balloon. Now, the problem is this. It's hard to see all of these, and I'm going to start getting things like this happen. So instead, what I would need to make sure that auto mask down here is selected, and it's going to actually select that for me. I'm going to do this very crudely. Now, what I like to do is boost my exposure all the way up so I can see what area I am selecting, and then I'll actually change the effect later. So essentially, I'm going to go around each one of these balloons, and I want you to notice here. I'm going to bring my feathering down, okay? And what I want you to notice is, you might want to do this a lot more in depth, okay, and not be this quick. But I don't think that I need to be particularly accurate with this for a number of reasons. I'm presuming that this image isn't going to be blown up huge. Okay, so what I want to do is I just want to bring out what is going on all of these balloons. I don't need to make sure I have all of the balloons selected, and I'll show you sorry, I just jumped out of there, and I will show you exactly why in a second. So this is going to take me just another couple of minutes to go through this, and all you can see is all I'm doing is I'm just selecting each one of these balloons, and I'm not taking any time over this. What I'm not doing is going into Photoshop, cutting out all of the balloons, okay? Now, obviously, if this was for, say, a client, or if it was going to be blown up really big and it was a really important client, that's probably what I would want to do. However, if we're just wanting to make this image look absolutely brilliant in a few minutes, this is how I would do it, only using Lightroom. Remember, this is a Lightroom tutorial. Okay, so I'm nearly done. Sorry if this was a little boring. Great, so that's pretty much all of them. I think I've missed one up in the top here. Yep, and one down here. So all I did there was I really quickly selected all of the balloons, but I didn't go into too much detail. Now what I'm going to do is pull back my exposure, And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to lift my saturation. I'm going to really boost the saturation on this, boost my sharpness, lift my clarity, and I am in fact going to pull back my contrast even more. Okay, and I'm going to boost my exposure just a little tiny bit. And let's see what happens if I boost the highlights. Oh yeah, let's boost the highlights. Let's boost the shadows. Look at these coming alive now. And now let's boost the, not the whites actually, it's too much. Okay, and then what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to add a little bit of yellow to all of these balloons, like so. So now let's look at the before and the after. Okay, before and the after. You can see these balloons have really started to come to life. And if I zoom in on this, it doesn't matter, okay, that I just selected it so randomly. It still seems to work and bring them to life. So now the balloons are starting to glow, but it's not perfect. So what I can actually do is come on, select this, right click, and I can duplicate it. So it's going to do the same thing again, and that is obviously going to ruin it. So I'll double click effect to reset everything. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to boost clarity a little bit more. I'm going to boost the saturation just a little bit more and boost the sharpness just to bring it out even more. Now what I have done down here is it's a little bit too much. So I can go erase, bring this down, and now all I can do is I'll just be erasing, and if I hit O, I can see what I'm doing. I can just erase what I'm doing to just these bottom few where it's gone too far. Okay, so let's come back out of that. Before, after. Now it's great. Now the next thing that I will do is I'll work on the sky, which is behind that. But remember, we're not in Photoshop, so we can't do layers. So there's blue at the top here. I'm going to bring this down so it's fading over the yellow, fading over the yellow area. And what I'm going to do is double click my effect, and I'm going to put blue. So the color temperature, again, I'm not adding blue, I'm just using the color temperature, and I'm just going to put blue down here, boost my saturation, and my highlights, watch, I'm going to pull the highlights back. And I'm going to reduce my contrast. The reason I reduce my contrast is it's going to take the blue out of all of those up there a little bit. That looks great. Now I'm going to add another one of these from the bottom. And yep, I'm going to do the exact opposite. I'm going to go into the yellow side of things. So now that's starting to really look great, but I'm going to pull the contrast out of that. And I am going to go brush, erase, because I don't want this to happen down at the bottom. So let's just wipe over there. Right, let's get rid of it completely. So we've still got that blue haze, which is happening at the bottom. So now let's look at the before and the after. Before and after. This image is really starting to work now, but we're not completely there. The next thing I'm going to do is work on my colors. So my blue in the sky, I'm going to pull that luminance back, and the yellow I'm going to pull back as well, because that's going to make that richer. And then I'm going to pull, I'm just going to fade those in so the lines are a little smoother so it doesn't create too much noise. Great. Now the next thing I want to do is down here I'm going to be looking at, well, on the whole image, but really down here is where I'm going to be focusing, and I know I can use split toning. So for example, I want some reds to be in my highlights, but also reds in my shadows, because it's dusk, okay? But the difference is, in fact, let's see what happens if we add a little blue or pink into our, oh, there we go, because it's dusk. We're actually going to go for this magenta in the highlights. Okay, I'm going to make it too far while we work on it. And we're going to go for this kind of a magenta in the highlights, just like so. And the shadows is what we're going to have these reds, and that's what's going to make it feel like it's at dusk. Now again, this is now looking so exciting. The next thing I want to do is look at the camera calibration. Now I actually use this for color toning sometimes. So if I move the hue of this, you can see what happens to the image. So I'll push this one towards the yellows, and the greens I actually want to go away, okay? In fact, no I don't, I want to go this way. So I want to pull in more of the magenta, because that's really the color of sunset. Now, I think there might be a little bit too much magenta in that, but I'm not going to just take it out down here, because now I'm going to essentially use some split toning up here, or cross-processing. So what I'm going to actually do is boost my reds in my highlights and reduce them, so I've created an S-curve here in my shadows. But then the blues, I'm actually going to crush the blues in the shadows. And what that's going to do is you can see down here, the Wacom tablet doesn't work well on the tone curve, by the way. So I'm going to crush it just a little bit. And what that's going to do is going to really add the blue into the really dark areas. So look at the before and the after when I'm using this tone curve. It just changes the image that little bit. And then I'm going to go to the RGB and I am going to add a little bit of contrast. Decrease the highlights, reduce the shadows, like so. And again, it's just going to pull up those shadows just a little bit, but I'm not going to crush them. I'm just going to lift them. Now, the final thing to do here is to add some extra level of drama to this, because at the moment it looks great, but we could do this by adding a radial filter, invert that, and let's just pull it back here. And so essentially what we're doing is adding a vignette, okay? So that, I like this vignette, what it's done up here. I don't like what it's done down here, okay? So what we're going to do is, I'm not gonna go too extreme, and I'm going to take the brush and I'm actually going to erase it completely from the bottom. So essentially we just added a vignette to the very top corners of this. And what I'm actually going to do is at the bottom, so it's a curved vignette at the top, then at the bottom I'm going to add essentially a straight vignette, okay? It's not actually a vignette, but I'm just bringing it in like that. So I'm going to pull this back down here and I'm actually going to add a little blue to it. But I don't want to go too far with this, so let me lift my shadows. So what you can actually, that's too much blue. So what you can actually see is I've added a little bit at the top in a curve, and then straight at the bottom. And I'm going to fade that in more, like so. So now, let's look at the before and the after. The before and the after. So in fact, the sun is going, well, the sun's coming from over here, I think. So let's add in one more radial filter to be coming across the screen, like so. Going to make it brighter on one side of the screen, like so. Boost the contrast, bring back the highlights. So what we've done there is essentially we've just added in the sun is coming across the screen, like so. Just make a check on that. Yeah, I'm going to pull it back a little bit. Okay, now I'm done. Done, no more work on this. Let's look at the before and let's look at the after. So that there is how I would personally edit this image. Now, if you liked this photo, please give me a thumbs up. I really made this image pop and made it really dramatic. I hope you liked it as much as I did. And please send in your images so I can show you what I would do in Lightroom to edit your images. This was Ed Gregory for photosincolor.com. Booyah.